So, does Gen Z have an identity crisis? And why could that be? Now, I asked that question, but first I had to take a moment to understand what I actually mean by identity crisis. I mean, it was a term that was first coined by psychologist Erik Erikson, and it refers to the internal struggle between the self we perceive and the self that others perceive. I mean, it's our struggle to understand who we are, what our values are, and where we fit in the world. So now let's consider Gen Z. I mean, they grew up in a world that is vastly different than their predecessors. I mean, they're the first generation to be raised in the era of smartphones, high-speed internet, social media, technological advancements that are vastly different and brought a whole slew era of unique changes that we didn't have to deal with. I mean, think of the role of social media. It's become a platform where people can curate and display an idealized version of themselves. I mean, there's constant exposure to these polished personas. I mean, it leads to these feelings of inadequacy and confusion about one's own identity. And for Gen Z, this virtual world is their reality. Couple this with the rapid pace of technological changes. I mean, every day there's something new, something better. It's a constant race to stay updated. I mean, imagine the pressure that it brings, the fear of being left behind. It's enough to make anyone question their place in the world. And then you throw in the twist of the global pandemic. I mean, it forced us all to adapt, but for Gen Z, it interrupted the crucial stage of their personal and social development. I mean, they had to navigate their adolescence and young adulthood amidst lockdowns and social distancing. I mean, they missed out definitely on experiences that define your formative years. So does Gen Z have an identity crisis? Well, it seems they do face a struggle for a coherent identity. You know, a struggle amplified by these unique challenges of their time. But remember, every generation has its battles. The silent generation had World War II. The baby boomers had Vietnam. Millennials had the financial crisis. Gen Xers had completely being forgotten about and ignored as children. So while it is clear that Gen Z faces unique challenges, how do they compare to the previous generations? You have to start by journeying back in time and start with the baby boomers. We all know they're born like 46 to 64, coming off the age of the post-war era where everything was great. Boomers were defined by a sense of optimism and prosperity and a can-do attitude. They were the first generation to grow up with television, which significantly influenced their worldview. However, they also faced societal upheavals such as the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, and these things also shaped their identity. And then you have us, Gen X. We're known as the latchkey kids, of course. We're the first generation to experience an extremely high divorce rate, dual income families, no parents at home. And this led to our sense of independence and forced resilience and adaptability. And then you got the advent of personal computers during our formative years, which also had a profound impact on us. And then we jump to the millennials. They're born between, 81 and 96, somewhere in there. And they're often characterized as tech savvy and ambitious and socially conscious. And they came of age during the digital revolution and what they're calling the Great Recession, which I don't think was really all that bad, but which fostered a sense of uncertainty and adaptability to an extent for them. It was a generation that was also known for their pursuit, specifically of work-life balance, and their focus on trying to make a difference. Now let's look at Gen Z specifically here, right? We all know when they were born. They're born between about 97 to say 2012. Somewhere in there. They're the first true digital native generation. They've never known a world without the internet. And it brings apart a unique challenge, right? And opportunities. They're more globally connected, more socially conscious, and diverse than any previous generation. Yet they also face some unprecedented levels of stress and anxiety. It's brought about the immediacy of the digital world, economic instability, global crisis, climate change. Obviously, I'm not a big proponent of that. But as we journey from generation to generation, it's clear that each has had its unique struggles and triumphs. We were all shaped by the society and technology and the global events of our time. However, the identity crisis of Generation Z, it seems to be an extremely new phenomenon as a whole. I mean, as you can see, each generation has its own unique struggle, but what is it that makes Gen Z's identity crisis so different? I think what really sets Gen Z apart from the rest is in their quest for identity. I mean, it's a question that many of us have asked. I mean, the answer is rooted in the unique struggles that this generation faces. I mean, you got to start with the omnipresent role of technology. I mean, they are the first to grow up completely immersed in this digital world. I mean, it's a constant connectivity that has its perks, but it also means that their identity formation is significantly influenced by the online sphere and what they see on the internet. And we all know that most of it is artificial. It's a facade. It's a filtered world, not reality. But it has become their virtual playground where they perpetually play a game of hide and seek with identity. Now consider the impact of social media. I mean, it truly is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it provides a platform where you can express themselves and connect with others, but it also subjects them to the relentless stream of curated perfection and insatiable desire for likes and shares. I mean, this pressure of instant gratification and constant comparison, it distorts their self-perception. I mean, and sometimes it even erodes their self-esteem. I mean, it creates this horrible beast inside of somebody. I mean, imagine you were trying to form your identity in the world is suddenly placed to the size of your home. You were downsized. You have no outside connection anymore. I mean, all social interactions, which is a crucial element of identity formation. I mean, they've been placed all in the virtual classrooms, Zoom parties. I mean, the pandemic created a generation that had to adapt and grow in isolation. Now, that's an experience that is bound to leave an indelible mark on your identity, no matter what. When you got the constant pressure from society on the environmental challenges that they face, I mean, their world is grappling with climate change and political instability and social inequality, which I think most is forced on them and is not a reality. However, this is what they perceive and shapes their identity. And it's not just problems for them to solve, but it's the realities that shape their worldview and ultimately their identity. I mean, all these unique challenges contribute to their identity crisis. But I mean, where do we go from here? Can Gen Z save themselves from themselves? Or is their past set and can no longer be altered? I mean, this is the question that brings us ahead to the path of Gen Z. I mean, it's a path that is yet to be fully charted and is laden with potential. And in a key part of navigating this identity crisis lies in your own self-awareness. It's about recognizing your individual strengths, weaknesses, and unique experiences. It also involves acknowledging the confusion, the struggle, and the uncertainty, and understanding that these feelings are not isolated, but are shared by many in your generation. Resilience, too, does play a significant role. I mean, the challenges you face are not small. Now, we do have to admit that Gen Z is grappling with a rapidly changing world and a huge deluge of information and unprecedented social pressure. I mean, it's a tough terrain to navigate, and it would be for anybody. But resilience, the ability to bounce back from adversity, to keep going despite hurdles, these things can be your compass. And the ability to adapt is another crucial asset that you need. I mean, arguably, yes, you Gen Zs, you are the first truly global generation exposed to the myriad of cultures, opinions, and realities. I mean, you're constantly growing up in a world that's evolving, and the ability to adapt to these changes, to embrace the new and the unfamiliar will be key in defining your path forward. But no one can navigate this journey alone, and it should not be taken alone. You need community, mentorship, positive online spaces cannot be overstated. You have to lay off a lot of this false facade filtered world in these TikTok and all this other stuff. When you see what people show, you know, when someone shows these fancy houses and cars, most times they don't actually own them. These people are frauds. These are rentals. They're for the image that they're showing you. They're selling you a fantasy. And now you get a real supportive community. You can explore and express your identities. I mean, mentorship offers guidance, wisdom, a sense of direction. And it is important to remember for us older generations and your path is not set in stone, not yet. It's a path that you have the power to shape, to alter, and define in your own terms so you don't have to be bogged down in what's being pushed. I mean, you're not purely products of your time, but you're an active participant in it and can reshape it as you move forward. I mean, does your struggle shape your worldview? Yes. So that comes to, how does growing up changes one's point of view and impact on youth? I mean, it's a question that's puzzled philosophers and thinkers throughout history. Now, Gen Z, it takes on a whole new significance. I mean, your identity crisis is not just a personal struggle, but a societal one. And it carries a profound philosophical implication. And understanding these implications, I mean, it requires us to delve into the essence of identity. Is it a fixed identity? Or is it fluid, changing with time and experience? I mean, for Gen Z, the latter seems to be the case. Your identities are all fluid, shaped by the world around you and the influences directly around you. And it's a world that is constantly in flux. I mean, it's driven by technology, social media, global events. I mean, this fluid of identity gives rise to a philosophical dilemma. If our identities are constantly changing, how do we know who we truly are? How can we make decisions about our future when you are unsure about your present? The answer perhaps lies in accepting this uncertainty. Gen Z has shown us that it's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to question, to explore, to redefine ourselves. I mean, this is not a crisis so much as some can call a liberation, a breaking away from rigid definitions and expectations. And yes, this comes with its own challenges. I mean, in a world where everything is possible, making a choice can be overwhelming. I mean, how does one navigate a sea of ultimate possibilities? How does Gen Z balance the quest for self-discovery with the pressure of the modern world? I mean, these are questions that don't have easy answers, but they are questions that are vital to understanding the world that is shaping you. They force us to rethink our notions of identity, change, and growth. I mean, in the end, Gen Z, like all generations before them, is on a journey of self-discovery. Their identity crisis is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to their resilience and adaptability in this changing world. Now, I understand that a lot of it is confusing and it doesn't make a lot of sense, and you get worked up and stressed and anxiety. And I think that creates a huge loss of control where people are worried about themselves and causes all that feeling, I don't know, not belonging. You get twisted up in your own thoughts and you're not really sure who you are or what you are or where you're going. That is okay. You're all still young. You don't get it. Not everybody was forced to grow up quick. Some people didn't have to, and that is all right. And this is Drac saying till next time. Peace out, everyone.